Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide on the Vida Television Network. Big show planned for you guys tonight. As always, make sure you stick around for the second segment. Our pal Mary Ramirez will be in. Always fun to check in to see what's on her mind for the week, in particular when it comes to pop culture. So in the meantime, let's get you caught up on how to get in touch with the show. ChrisSalcedo.com if you want to leave a voicemail, you want to leave an email, feedback on the show. Maybe you have an idea for a show, something we haven't covered that you'd like to see explored. No problem. We take suggestions here. Instantaneous feedback on the program on Twitter at Chris Salcedo TX, at ChrisSalcedo TX, as in Texas. Okay. Tucker Carlson had a conversation with Donna Brazile. Now, for those of you who don't know who Donna Brazile is, she's a longtime Democrat politico. She is a longtime friend of Hillary Rodham Clinton. She's been in Democrat liberal extremist politics forever. Now, she's written a tell-all book. I'm not going to promote it. You can go look it up. Suffice it to say, she wrote a book throwing Hillary Clinton under the bus, basically saying she rigged the Democrat primary. Now, aside from the legality of all of this, which I'm sure, if somebody will wake up Attorney General Jeff Sessions, something might happen there. But at any rate, all of that aside, the speculation as to why she would do this. Why would Donna Brazile do this? And we'll get to that toward the end of the segment. But anyway, here's what she started talking with Tucker Carlson as she was visiting with him last week on Fox News.
Are you getting threats right now since the book has come out?
Of course. When people see things that they disagree with, they don't just say, Donna, I don't like that. That gumbo is not the right kind. You're using andouille sausage, not the hot sausage. You know what they say? I must rather not have you or the gumbo. Tucker, unfortunately, we live in a world now where even appearing on this show tonight, even taking pictures with people I disagree with, people attack you. They attack you.
No. Not people. Sorry, Donna. Not people. I mean, you might get verbally attacked from a conservative like me because, well, you're a progressive and you're a Democrat and you say really stupid stuff. But we won't threaten your life. The conservative doesn't do that. Your liberal extremists who are protecting Hillary Clinton, they are the ones, not people. Liberals, extremists are threatening your life because, if you'll pardon the pun, you've gone off the reservation. You've gone off the plantation, the Democrat liberal plantation, and you've done something rather extraordinary, Donna Brazile. You've told the truth and revealed what's really going on in Democrat land, a rigged primary, and that can't be forgiven. You're not getting death threats from the conservatives. You're not getting death threats from Republicans or even fair-minded independents. Liberal extremists are threatening your life, madam.
Motives. And everyone who has said Donna is making money, well, first of all, that's a good thing because Donna got a lot of mouths to feed. But people are just questioning why Donna would write her book, because Donna likes to write. Please read the book. This is a great book.
Yeah. Psychological observation. When one starts referring to themselves in the third person, cuckoo, cuckoo, just saying, Donna's got to write a book. Donna's got a lot of mouths to feed. And Donna, never mind. Moving on. This is a Democrat, some liberal extremist Democrat. He appears all the time on Fox News. His name, it really isn't important. Just what he's saying is somewhat important. And listen to what happens to Democrats when they wander off the reservation.
I don't know whether Donna Brazile is a kook, but what she says is kooky.
Okay. I can't disagree with him, on the whole third person thing. But where I do find a great deal of believability is when Donna Brazile writes about how crooked the Democrat Party is and how crooked the DNC was and how crooked Hillary Clinton was, which is exactly what she wrote about, folks, in this tell-all book, letting us know that Hillary Clinton rigged the last election and basically prevented Bernie Sanders from winning. He had the more energy, and, well, they just couldn't allow him to win. They couldn't allow a socialist to properly represent the Democrat Party. That's what they've descended into. Tucker Carlson continued his discussion. Now Donna Brazile is going to respond to being called kooky. Not by me,
What I
by
sought
the
to do, Tucker, was to ensure that we had these issues on the table, and I made sure that our candidates, I didn't want them blindsided. That's what I admitted to. That's what I, look, what WikiLeaks put out.
That's the greatest spin I've ever heard.
Yeah, wait a minute. You know what she's talking about? This is one of those kooky things that the unnamed liberal extremist who was on Tucker's show beforehand was saying. She is now trying to say that when she gave Hillary Clinton the questions in that Democrat primary from CNN, that she was just trying to make sure they didn't have an unfair advantage. They? Well, wait a minute. If it was they, then why didn't Bernie Sanders get a copy of those questions? Only Hillary Clinton, Donna Brazile, and then why did CNN fire you? And then who at CNN gave you those questions, Donna Brazile, to that debate? You know, we still don't know to this day. CNN has never done an internal investigation, and CNN has never fired anyone because they gave questions away in a Democrat primary, helping to rig that election.
I didn't want them blindsided. That's so good.
Tucker can't believe it. Wait a minute. You didn't want your candidates to be blindsided by questions that they weren't supposed to know about ahead of time. That's why they call it a debate. She was trying to basically say, take back. Folks, Donna Brazile has already admitted that she gave questions to Hillary Clinton and helped rig the Democrat primary. Already said that she regretted it. Already said she regretted it. Now she's trying to say, well, that's all I said I did. I didn't really give away the questions. I just wanted to make sure they weren't at an unfair advantage, a disadvantage. What? Wait, so wait a minute. If you were doing that, you'd give it to both candidates, right? But you only gave it to Hillary. Well, maybe what this guy is saying makes a lot of sense.
I don't know whether Donna Brazile is a kook, but what she says is kooky.
Okay. Moving on. Now, this is where we find out why Donna Brazile is doing what she's doing. Now, many conservatives, many Republicans had said, man, why now? Why do this? Why now are you rolling over on the Clintons? Now, granted, the Clintons, after Mrs. Clinton lost twice, once to Barack Obama and once to Donald Trump, her political cachet is all gone. It's just kaput. Very few friends in Washington do Bill and Hillary have. And Bill only has them because, well, he's kind of an amiable guy, though he's a Democrat. Anyhow, Donna Brazile gave up the ghost as to why she's really doing all of this, folks. She's trying to get rid of the Clintons, but there's a reason why.
First of all, my mother, when I was a little kid growing up, my mother used to say, it's not what they call you, it's what you answer to. But I want to channel another woman who I admire so much, and that's Michelle Obama, who said, when they go low, you go high. And perhaps what I did on Sunday when I told some of my detractors to go to hell, and as you well know, some of my conservatives know that I have always had a quick tongue. I've told people in the past what I really feel. I should have channeled Michelle and just go higher.
Ladies and gentlemen, Donna Brazile, it is widely speculated, is clearing the Democrat field for Michelle Obama to run for president of the United States. She's clearing the Democrat National Committee from all of the Clinton influence. This is now officially the Obama's Democrat Party. And I am all for this. I support it because when Barack Obama ran the Democrat National Committee, when he was the titular head of the Democrat Party, they lost over 1,000 seats across the country during his occupation of the Oval Office. Oh, I hope they get control and keep control and continue to drive that Democrat Party into a realm that nobody recognizes. A Democrat Party that stands up for things like, socialism and communism. John Bolton was on Fox News and was asked about the president's trip, about showing up in China. And back here at home, how there were a bunch of leftists, in particular the New York Times, who were trying to rewrite history about the utter disgrace and carnage of communism, what collectivist thought does to a people, to the world. And Brett Baer asks John Bolton this question. Listen.
You know, I want to get your thoughts about how now, in retrospect, the media overall looks at communism. Recently, I saw a New York Times opinion piece, and it was about how did women fare in China's communist revolution. And it said, quote, "For all its flaws, the communist revolution taught Chinese women to dream big." And our friend Mark Thiessen wrote a response to that and said, "Good God, communist revolution killed 65 million in China." Is there kind of a recasting of communism as history goes by here?
Well, before I let the good ambassador, who is, by the way, should have been Secretary of State in the Trump administration, in my humble opinion, the recasting is real, ladies and gentlemen. These left-wingers now dominate the school system. We're now cranking out kids who come out of the government-run education system and tout socialism of Bernie Sanders, the socialism of Nicolas Maduro or Hugo Chavez, the communism of the Castros. That's instructors in our government-run education system are teaching the virtues of a political system and an economic system that is responsible for the death of millions, and the erasing of human freedom and human dignity and the trouncing of the human spirit throughout humanity's history. They are advocating it, they're pushing for it, and they're rewriting this history. And there is an agenda. If your kids are in the government-run schools, they are at risk of walking away thinking, hey, this is A-OK. This is A-OK.
Look, the New York Times has been wrong on communism for a full century. This is the newspaper that sent Walter Duranty to the Ukraine and got a Pulitzer Prize for reporting that somehow missed the famine caused by dekulakization in Ukraine, killing millions of people, starvation and execution. And when Stalin died, in the New York Times obituary, it said, well, he did have these show trials in the 1930s and purges and executions. And it then said, but those who survived his terrorism came to hail Stalin as a great leader. I mean, it's no wonder the New York Times doesn't get it today. Why should they change course?
No, they get it. They get it. The folks at the New York Times just like it. They are attracted to the idea of 65 million people dead and whole societies under the boot of an oppressive government. I'll be right back. Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. Welcome back, everybody. The Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide. The smiling face over my right shoulder, that is Mary Ramirez. Hi, Mary Ramirez. She's waving a hand. Hello, and welcome back to the Salcedo Show.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
All right. Well, we have a lot to speak about what happened last week and over the weekend. What were some of the things that stood out in your mind?
Well, first and foremost, Chris, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and, we just celebrated Veterans Day. And I want to take a few minutes to thank not only everyone that serves, but particularly my baby brother, who served in Iraq, and my two grandfathers, my paternal grandfather, who was an MP in the Marines, and my maternal grandfather, who was in the Army. And so I just don't think people realize how small a percentage it is of people that volunteer to stand up and lay down their lives potentially for what you and I are doing right now, freedom of speech, all these wonderful things we have in this country. It really is a miraculous gift, that they've given us. And I just wanted to thank them for that. So before we did anything else, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, as you are saying that, I'm pulling something up here on the computer because last Friday we also celebrated the birthday of of the Marine Corps.
Yes.
And, of course, here here is what I wanted to pull up. Hold on one second. Hold on. Let me see if I can put this. You can't hear this, I don't think, but the folks at home can hear it. Hold on.
Very good.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
All right, the Marine Corps. Hoorah. Semper Fi. Glad we could play that a little bit because we weren't able to do this on Friday's show. So, Mary Ramirez, good point. A hat tip to all the veterans and those who have given the full measure of devotion or laid their lives in line and were prepared to give the full measure of devotion in service to this country.
Absolutely.
All right, what else you got going on?
Well, Chris, as a parent, one child and one on the way, something that bothers me so immensely, and I see this all the time across the media, particularly outlets like Slate, which is where my offering today comes from, where you have parents imposing subject matter that is far beyond the comprehension of their young children onto their children, impressing them with their politics, their sociological worldviews, that these children, I mean, some of them are just learning how to not wet the bed or launch pancakes across the dining room table, and yet they're involving them in these conversations that are far beyond their comprehension and their age. And this particular piece I read on Slate, it's entitled, it's by a woman named Melinda Winter-Moyer, and she is Slate.com's parenting advice columnist. And she writes.
Well, hold on. Just stop right there. Slate.com, a left-wing extremist website, actually offers advice on parenting.
Yes.
Well, it's kind of odd because most of the folks over at Slate want to slaughter children in utero. So it's very odd. I mean, that some of the parents they'd be speaking to over at Slate, if they subscribe to what Slate is all about, children don't survive the womb.
Yeah, it would seem that their argument for abortion would sort of make their position, this woman's position, a moot point.
Exactly.
Because you're preventing more people from becoming parents. That's to your point. But she writes a piece called "Sexism Starts in Childhood," and she, come on, let these children be children. She's lamenting, of course, the latest allegations of sexual harassment. Of course, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. I think Louis C.K. is the latest. Mariah Carey as well, incidentally. I don't know if you heard about that.
Mariah Carey, yeah, she's being accused of sexual harassment by her bodyguard. Sexual harassment and racial slurs.
Wow.
Well, I can, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe I shouldn't say this.
Oh, boy.
I have heard stories about Mariah Carey's eccentricity. Let's just put it that way. She's rather eccentric. I mean, I heard at one point that she didn't want to be photographed she refused to be photographed on one side of her face, even though you couldn't tell, but she's one of I mean, seriously, you couldn't tell that one side was, and I always thought Mariah Carey was very attractive, but she is really a quirky cat. And so she's being accused of harassment by her bodyguard.
Yep. Sexual harassment and some pretty significant racial slurs.
Well, innocent until proven guilty. And of course, we got to throw in there Roy Moore too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. No, you can't. I would never suggest that we, judge someone before and simply in the court of public opinion. But anyway, to this woman's point, we have a rash of sexual harassment and predatory sexual behavior coming down the pike. And she writes, I want to read this. She says, how do I shape my son into a man who respects women and treats them as equal? Is it possible for him to breathe society's misogynistic air every day without succumbing? Yes, I know. How do I instill in my daughter the confidence, resolve, and resilience, there's that word again, to thrive in a culture that will incessantly push her down? And immediately, that's like 3 sentences into the piece. So you know that she's starting out with a worldview that believes that all boys are predators inherently, and that all girls are inherently the oppressed. And she goes on to list different reasons or different ways that we parents can help our boys and girls avoid this natural tendency. She finds or takes issue with the fact that we parents incessantly point out gender. For example, that woman over there, that man on the corner, hello, boys and girls, gender pronouns, okay, are going to teach children to classify people into these 2 groups, and that's a problem. Well, okay, biologically they are, so I'm sorry. And it's funny, Chris, I have to say this. We conservatives are routinely accused of being consummate science deniers. because we don't blindly buy into the idea that climate change is entirely man-made, right? We don't blindly buy into it. So we're science deniers. They are the ones routinely denying demonstrably provable scientific fact and wanting to eliminate this idea that there's two genders and that they're different, right? So that's number one. We parents are not supposed to point out differences in the gender, starting with pronouns. We're not supposed to buy them gender-specific toys. Apparently the doll I just bought my kid's a problem because it teaches her that she's really only good for one thing, subservient motherhood. Okay?
Wow.
Even though she's
when did keeping a home become so looked down upon?
A slur of some kind?
When did being a good cook be looked down upon? I mean, there are plenty of great male chefs, might I add, out there. And just because a little girl wants to be good at something, whether it be cooking or whether it be kicking a football over the goalposts, encourage them to be good at everything. But before you go on, as the guy in this conversation, here's what I see, and maybe you address this in your piece. That this effort by liberal extremists, like you're reading from Salon, to rid the culture of misogyny, which I think is an admirable goal, they're going too far in the other direction. The pendulum is swinging back too far the other way to where they are demonizing manhood. And
oh my God.
Masculinity is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. Misogyny is a bad thing, absolutely, but misogyny is not automatically, or masculinity rather, is not automatically misogyny. In fact, if you go and look at this article, which I've linked to in my piece, there's a graphic at the very top of the page, and it depicts a little boy and his problematic behavior. It's always the boy's fault, and I just feel my heart aches for my unborn son and the world he's going to have to face, because women like this automatically assume he is inherently a predator, and that I, as a mother, need to rid him of that, drive that out of him.
Well, how is that different from the way our progressive friends across the aisle look at guns? They believe that every single person in America is a potential criminal if they want to buy a firearm to protect their family.
Right.
It's this whole guilty until proven innocent mantra that the left wing has been afflicted with throughout human history. We tried to get away from that, the American standard of innocent until proven guilty, and the Democrats have done their best and liberals have done their best to turn that on its ear to where now everybody's assumed guilty. If you're Roy Moore and somebody comes out with a 40-year accusation, oh, you must be guilty. However, let me ask you this, Mary, as Republicans by the name of Mitch McConnell, Republicans by the name of John McCain or Jeff Flake automatically assume, or Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney says he believes Roy Moore's accusers. Oh, well, gee, that no trial is necessary. Let's get rid of him now. These same Republicans, when Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, was accused of molesting underage girls and having sex with underage girls as part of his ongoing trial that's going on right now, none of these Republican voices called for him to step down.
Right, and it's funny how very quickly after these accusations against Roy Moore surfaced that these different Republicans were very, very quick to come to the microphone.
Really? I mean, almost reading from the same script. I think he should resign.
Exactly. And again, he has to go through the process. It needs to be, there is an accusation. But yeah, the fact that you've got accusations on both sides for Menendez and Moore, and yet you've got these Republicans instantaneously coming out and decrying him without any further proof. And by the way, isn't it funny that Mitt Romney would come out and say that he believes these accusations? Doesn't he remember when Harry Reid came out and said that, I have sources that say that he hasn't paid his taxes for 10 years. And the reporters ask him, well, who are your sources? Oh, no, focus on him. And then what happens?
That became, by the way, what you're bringing up, that became the narrative of the 2012 election cycle. Harry Reid saying, oh, a little birdie whispered in his ear that Mitt Romney hadn't paid taxes in 10 years. It was a complete and utter lie, and the press went crazy with it and printed it, and everybody started believing it. And then after the election, after Barack Obama won, Harry Reid admitted he lied, and he said, well, Mitt Romney didn't win, did he?
Yeah, he didn't win.
Mitt Romney, you're right, Mitt Romney ought to be ashamed of himself.
He should. If anybody ought to be a champion of innocent until proven guilty, it's him. Okay? I mean, jeez, it's utterly despicable. I can't even think of the word.
Well, pivoting back to your piece, so
Yes.
so you wanted to answer this leftist by I guess maybe some sage advice as to how you're going to bring up your son and how you're going to bring up your daughter. What did you come up with?
Well, two things, Chris. First of all, throughout this entire piece, I didn't once see her say anything about simply teaching your children to be kind and selfless and respectful. Not a single time did I see her mention that. You don't have to tell your kid, she can't play with dolls or he can't play with G.I. Joes. You need to teach them to be good people. The rest will follow. And here's the thing, by claiming that it's pink ruffles, which by the way is mentioned in this piece as a problem, dressing your daughter in pink ruffles. If pink ruffles and Tonka trucks, if we have that be the reason behind the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, the Kevin Spaceys of the world, that's really the problem. That's the best cop out of all, because then the adult, I get to continue binge watching Netflix and Hollywood, and I get to continue to listen to the lyrics of the likes of Beyonce, with no remorse.
Put a ring on it. Put a ring on it. Yeah. You know what? And also, as long as we're indicting the political left and liberal ideology, it also this person in the salon piece, it sounds like to me, she's exonerating herself. It's all It's all society's fault. The reason why we have misogyny, and we liberals are never responsible for what we do.
And that's exactly my point. She's exonerating herself and all liberals because really, what pop culture tells us all the time is that anything goes. You can do whatever you want. You can love whoever you want. I mean, who the heck says it's wrong for Harvey Weinstein to do what he does? I happen to believe it is, but who says? He works for an industry that says do whatever you want, feel whatever you feel. Okay, so if I blame pink ruffles and Tonka trucks and G.I. Joe dolls and baby dolls, instead of the moral decay that the likes of Hollywood itself is perpetuating, it allows me to continue living life as I want. Like I said, binging on Netflix, listening to this music, and I can just point at society and say, well, my son breathes this misogynistic air every day, and if I just simply tell him that he has to play with dolls and not G.I. Joes, problem solved.
Well, yeah, it is a sticky wicket. It is the cultural battle that we conservatives find ourselves in, and like I said, I still can't get past the fact that Salon actually dares to lecture anybody on parenting. I mean, it's just what's the name of your piece?
Sure, Chris. It's on my website at futurefree.com, and it's parents. The problem isn't pink ruffles and Tonka trucks. It's moral decay. Moral decay,
yeah. And I would have to imagine that part of that moral decay is the elimination of God from our culture and from our society. And you know what? Who's the main sponsor behind that? Our left-wing friends, right?
You don't say. Yes.
Yes. You will be tweeting that out, and the Chris Salcedo Show will be repeating that tweet and retweeting that tweet after the end of the program. So thank you very much. Mary Ramirez, everybody, as always, contributing to the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, that's going to do it for the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide for this evening. Get in touch with the show, chrissalcedo.com, voicemail and email there, or on Twitter, instantaneous feedback at Chris Salcedo TX. Have yourselves a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow here on the Vida Television Network for the Chris Salcedo Show Worldwide.